Welcome back to Just Scrap Radio on BJPenn.com. I'm your host, Cole Shelton, episode 154. We got a good lineup here out of the UFC card this weekend, but we're actually going to be first starting with two guys that won 2 weekends ago. First up, we're joined by Dan Ige to recap his first round knockout over Andre Fili. A really good performance from Dan. Got that big knockout to return to the win column after the loss to Bryce Mitchell. So really good chat with Dan about kind of how that fight all came together, and then getting a big win, kind of reminding everyone that he's still a legit featherweight contender. We're then going to be joined by Max Griffin to recap his split decision win over Jeremiah Wells. Obviously, it was a very close fight. Max thought he won pretty clearly. He was happy with his performance, but now, obviously, that was the last fight of his deal, which he revealed to us. So, big fight for Max to try to. That was obviously a big win to try to get him another contract. And then we're going to be joined by Chris Duncan to preview his fight against Manuel Torres at UFC Mexico City on Saturday. Chris Duncan coming off that win over Yanel Ashmos back in July. Was supposed to fight Terrence McKinney in October. Some visa issues took him out of that fight, so he's really looking forward to getting back in there. And he fights Manuel Torres, who's 2-0 in the UFC, 2 first-round knockouts. So Chris is really looking forward to this fight. I think it's going to be very entertaining. But be sure to share the show, subscribe, and tune in next week for another episode of Just Scrap Radio. All right, we're joined by UFC featherweight Dan Ige, who picked up a big win. Dan, how's it going, man?
Good, dude. Just back to normal life, dad life. But yeah, it feels good to be on the other side of a win rather than a loss.
It was like that whole fight week. Like, what kind of was that like for you? Because I know you and Andre trained together. Like, I know you guys are pretty friendly, and then like it was kind of weird that you two were fighting. Like, was it weird for you fight week having to fight him, or is it just like do you have to kind of put that aside?
A little bit, you got to kind of put it aside, and even like interviews. I didn't want to do interviews. It just wasn't a fight I wanted to talk about. I knew the fight would kind of sell itself, and I had to separate that friendship mentality and just get in there and handle my business, and that's what I did.
Was there any hesitancy to say no to him when it got offered, like when as a replacement for Murphy?
Not necessarily because, given the circumstances with my wife being pregnant, like it was like almost the same situation when I fought Gavin Tucker. I was supposed to fight Ryan Hall, and Hall pulled out. It was about 3 weeks before, and I was just so set on fighting because you prepare yourself, you're ready to go. And Feely, I got a text from Sean Shelby that said Feely wanted the fight, so it was frustrating when I heard the name, but at the same time, like I was prepared and ready to fight anyone. So, I took the fight, no hesitancy, and just went from there.
Was it a surprise he asked for it? Because like you guys have trained together. Like, do you think he saw something or knew anything, or do you think it was more just like, hey, I just want to get a fight, make some extra money?
No, I think he just saw, you know, a window of opportunity. The sport is it's kind of ruthless like that. You gotta find your opportunities to climb the ladder, and him seeing a ranked guy fall out, that's his opportunity to climb back up into the rankings. And it didn't work out, but sometimes those risks pay off big time. You seen it with, who was it? It was like Jalen Turner when he fought Bobby Green.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was a risk. He took it on short notice, and it worked out for him. This time it didn't work out that way for Feely, and it sucks because I like the guy, but at the same time I gotta protect myself and protect my job, and make that money.
That hook you threw, is that something you guys saw in his camp, or is that just something you just kind of saw at that moment, or is that like something you guys were practicing?
What's weird is I literally, like, I had a dream, and I never have like super specific dreams, but I had a dream I knocked him out with that specific punch in the same scenario, and I tried not to like hyper focus on that and force it, and I just saw the window of opportunity, and I threw it. And because he's a taller guy, I just kept seeing myself getting under him and throwing the right hand over the top. And I saw it all, through training camp. And, I spar a lot with Julian Erosa. He's a taller guy. So, you know, I would land it on him. Um, Obviously, I'm not like throwing full power, but I knew I could land that punch. So, when you put those 4 ounce gloves on, it doesn't take a lot. And when you put a little bit of intention behind it to obviously hurt someone, yeah, you could do some big damage. And it landed, and I'm grateful, and yeah, it was a good thing.
Do you think people are like sleeping on your power? Like I feel like a lot going in your fights, like no one really talks about you getting like knockouts or anything, but like you have quite a few first round knockouts now in the UFC too.
Yeah, and I think I'm just gonna keep stacking them up because I'm only getting better. Um, People sleep on me, especially if you know, I'll start climbing the ladder and then I lose the decision. Like people just forget real quick, you know. At one loss or two losses, you're nobody, and then one big knockout, you're, oh my god, you're back. He's back. Win two fights, he's in title contention. So, I don't really care what people think or how people think. It's nice when everyone thinks you're the greatest ever, but I kind of like the doubt a little bit, and I just go in there and handle my business.
When you did drop him, you gave him that one shot on the ground. Like, do you regret that, or do you think like I know the ref hadn't stopped him at that point? I saw some people saying like, "Oh, Dan should have walked away," but like it is kind of fight until the ref pulls you off. So like, any comment on that?
Uh, I hit him. I dropped him. I saw his head kind of hit the canvas, and his eyes were rolling back. And I gave Herzog a split second to jump in, but I had to seal the deal. And I knew that one punch more. Like, yeah, it was extra, but it also was like pretty gangster.
Yeah. And another 50K bonus for you. Like, how kind of happy are you, especially with the new kid on the way? That's gonna probably go a long way.
Yeah, man, it's helpful. You always you kind of think about it obviously before the fight. I'm thinking of how much money I could make. What's the possibility? Like, I could make three paychecks. So, you kind of like get excited for that. And sometimes it comes, sometimes it doesn't. But this time it came. So it's going to be, that's really helpful, going into parenthood of two kids now. I'm trying to buy a new house. So that's going to help big time. Um, but I need more. I need,
Yeah.
I need to make some more.
Uh, what do you think this win does for you? Like, feel he wasn't ranked, but like he still is a notable guy in the UFC, like a first round finish. Like, what do you think that kind of does for you in this division?
I mean, sky's the limit, man. I think I've earned some time to just sit and wait and see what happens a little bit. Enjoy some time with the family, wait for the newborn to come, kind of adjust to being a dad again of two kids now. So routine and structure might change a little bit. So I'm gonna just kind of get used to that new life and sit and wait for a good opportunity. But I'm in no rush. But like I said, I think in the post-fight press conference, like I'd like to step back in, maybe late summer, early fall. I like the opportunity. I like that sphere card. It just sounds cool. I'm not hyper fixated on it, but that's enough time to sit and wait and see what happens with some other fights, and that could be a big one. And then yeah, obviously anywhere else, I don't really care. Just wanna get maybe one or two more this year at the end of the year.
Do you think it's going to be a rank guy? Like you've had a couple of these fights now where you're kind of defending your spot and you kind of beat a lot of these guys and you finish most of them. So like, do you think it is kind of someone ahead of you next time out?
I think so. I mean, I was scheduled to face the rank guy, and Lerone Murphy fell out, and then Feely stepped in, which in my opinion, was a bigger fight. Name wise, ranking or not ranked, like beating Murphy wasn't really going to move me up. Even though I beat Feely and I moved up, which is weird, but um, yeah, a guy up would be nice. Just I'm not gonna just pout about it if that's
Mm.
not what happens, but I think I deserve it, and I think the UFC wants to make that happen. I think they like me. They've invested a lot in me. I've had 16 fights under the UFC, and I think I'm starting to show some true potential in that I could beat anyone in the division.
That was your 10th UFC win too. Like, is it pretty crazy that you've already double-digit wins in the UFC? Like, it feels like you really haven't been in the UFC that long, but then like 16 fights, 10 wins, like you're starting to get up there in fights.
Yeah, man. It's pretty wild. Time flies. Just been in the UFC for 6 years now, and it all started from just a dream. A kid with a dream, and here we are. I'm a veteran now, but I'm still young and I'm still hungry, and I have a lot more in me.
We're doing this before the title fight on Saturday, but like kind of featherweight division, like what are your kind of thoughts? Like it's finally starting to get some movement. Like Volk, I think is kind of set with featherweight after losing to Islam. Like Yab Ortega and Yair finally fighting again. Like what do you kind of make the top of the division?
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to see kind of everyone booked up and match and moving. And he had Mofsar and Allen. That was a big fight. So everyone's kind of moving their way up. The stagnant guys are falling out, and then you got guys like Emmett. You don't know what's gonna like. He had a great win, crazy knockout. So kind of like put him sort of back in there, and then Cater's return versus Aljo. It's exciting, man. Everyone's competing. We're all fighting for that spot, and that's the beauty of the sport. And I think it's one of the most stacked divisions in the world. So excited to be a part of it.
How do you think Aljo fares at 45? Like whenever I've talked to him or like I've talked to his teammates, like everyone was stunned that he cut down to 35. Like I feel like he's gonna be like I don't even think he's gonna be like an advertiser. I feel like he's still gonna be like a pretty big featherweight out there.
Yeah, dude, he's big. He's bigger than me. Like he walks around. I don't know how he made 135 because honestly, like for me physically, it's almost impossible for me to go down to 135. Given like just physics. Um, and then he walks around larger than I do, and I think he'll fare pretty well at featherweight, and it's still like you said, it'll be a still has to cut a decent amount of weight. Um, I told him he should just miss weight for his first fight for publicity.
Uh, and, and then your fellow Hawaiian and Max Holloway going back up to lightweight for the BMF belt. Like, I think that, what do you kind of make of that? Because it's a pretty fun fight. Like, I think Max, he's still in such a weird spot. Like, maybe if Ilya wins this weekend, then it kind of makes sense for him to go to 45. I think if Volk wins, like, maybe he beats Gaethje and just kind of sticks around at lightweight. Like, I think I like that fight a lot for him because it kind of gives him some options depending on what happens on Saturday.
It does, man, and I think he's always had options because number one is size and just him being a dominant champion, and he's so good. And I think he does great at either weight class. Um, that fight's hard for me because I love Justin Gagey. Like he's like one of my closest friends in the sport.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he lives in Colorado, I live in Vegas. I admire that dude. I admire Max Holloway, but that's the fan fight right there. That's the best fight like anyone could put. That's a UFC 300 headliner right there. That's a great fight. I can't wait to watch it. But yeah, man, sky's the limit for both dudes. Either guy that wins that fight walks out of there freaking a G, and the guy that loses is a G as well. So it'll be a good fight.
Just to close it out, back to you. So, like, obviously taking a bit of time off with the kid. So, like, what's that ideal year look like for you? Like, you think you just one more then probably, or you hoping to maybe squeeze in two more depending on when that return fight is?
Yeah, I think it all depends on the return. But if I got in there end of August, early September, I think I could sneak one more in by December. But like I said, it all depends on performances. If I go out and have another Feely performance, I can jump right back. Like I could probably jump back in shortly if I needed to or wanted to. But I got to put my family first right now, and I've earned that. So yeah, we'll just wait and see what happens. And but sky's the limit.
Well, Dan, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this again.
Right on, Cole. Have a good one.
All right, we're joining UFC welterweight Max Griffin, who picked up a wing on the weekend. Max, how's it going, man?
I'm good, Cole. What's cracking, man? How are you?
I'm doing well. Like, obviously, we going into that fight, like we kind of talked about, there's fighting out the deal. Like going in, I know you said there wasn't a lot of pressure to me before, but like now the fight is over. Like, did that add anything to the fight now, looking back on it, or do you think that made you maybe fight better in some way?
I think it made me fight better and made me fight more composed. Jeremiah was a wild guy, explosive, do a lot of shit. But I mean, he tried to intimidate me. It was pretty emotional. But I had to just shut all that down and do what we had to do.
And going into this fight, I know you thought it was going to be a pretty exciting one. Like, did that fight like live up to your expectation, or do you think it was like not as like wild as you thought it was going to be?
I feel like it ended up being more technical than wild. He was really good at just throwing off free throw. He was like a trap. Like, you touch him and he'd throw these shots. So it was real. You had to kind of poke him and get him to throw, and then counter him. But then he didn't want to throw first, so it was like it was hella like trigger. Okay, boom. It kind of had to be how it was to win that fight.
With Jeremiah, like, did anything he do or didn't do surprise you in there?
He threw more spins than we thought, but we thought he was going to barrel in. I caught him with the jab in the beginning of the fight, and then he didn't just barrel in. He'd wait for me to throw, and then he tried to counter me. Then I was trying to counter his counter, and it was just it was tough, man, because he was so dangerous. I had to really move my head away, little shots. I'm a little busted up. More like a scratch.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a 3 fingernail scratch. I don't know what kind of gloves that is, but it was fun, man. It's fun to be in there with someone so dangerous, but kind of nullified his damage.
He didn't shoot as much as I thought he would. Like, did that surprise you that he didn't shoot for as many takedowns?
Yeah, I think too, because the game plan was beat him up. He takes you down, get up. Don't let him hold you down. I know he's a big squeezer, big holder, and I was able to stuff those and kind of get away, shuck him off. So I think that the game plan was stuff 2 takedowns, and then he'll probably stop shooting, and it was true.
And then you get to the scorecards. It's a split in the history. These close split decisions don't really go your way. Like, how nervous were you when they
never do.
Score?
I weirdly wasn't nervous because, I mean, during the fight, his corner was like, "Man, you got to win this one, Jeremiah. You got to." They were talking from like a trail of like defeat. Like, you really need this one, Jeremiah. Just what they were telling him. He needed to finish me. He needed to come out there and, take it, And I felt the same way, but I felt like I was ahead, busting him up. It was close. But I had the harder shots. He threw on me, but shit grazed me. But I stunned him a bunch of times and, like, really hurt him. And he was busted up the whole time, bloody. Every time I hit him, his mouth was bloody. Blood was spraying on the mat and everything. It was good, man. It was good to get a good win over him because, like I said, he was trying to bully me backstage. He was trying to punk me at weigh-ins. Like, I'm not a punk, man.
I thought you won the first and the third rounds. Like, is that how you kind of?
Yeah. The second was a little closer. I threw a kick. Yeah, he was good, man. He was waiting for my shit and waiting for stuff. He fought a good fight. But yeah, the first and third. But it's good to have to rise to the occasion and get these wins over guys that are mean dudes, man. Feels good.
And I know, like, the fight obviously just happened on Saturday, but like, have the UFC reached out yet to like try to get something signed with you?
We're gonna I think for about a week.
Yeah.
Let this week settle. Let them go to the war room. Let them figure out their stuff. They go yesterday and today. They figure their game plan out. But man, I'm ready to fight in the UFC, man. The UFC's where it's at. There's other shows in town, but they're not comparable at all to the UFC. I want to finish my thing here. I want to get paid though. That's fair. So I fought it out just to give myself a little more juice. But I could beat a lot of these top 15 guys. Just give me some of these guys, man. Just give me some of these guys.
Do you think with like Bellator going away, like less and less guys are gonna start they're gonna stop fighting out their contracts, even like just getting near it? Like I feel like now, like it's just so hard with like Bellator gone. It's just like it really is a UFC PFL, and like who knows what's really going on with one.
Yeah, one's a little corrupt. Judging by the Sage Northcutt situation and all those. I have a little inside information on that, but I really think, UFC is the choice. Especially when the Bellator merger with PFL, they hacked a bunch of their Bellator guys. Half of those guys are cut. Even the PFL guys, it's
Mm-hmm.
real muddy waters over there, and but UFC is the only show in town as far as I'm concerned.
Do you think that merger was good? Because I was always saying it was bad for the sport, and like PFL emailed me basically saying like, "Oh no, this is why it's good" and all this stuff. And I'm like, you just took away one less option, free agency for fighters. There already isn't enough money in MMA, and then you just kind of took one away just like that.
Yeah, I think it too, especially if they're cutting a lot of the fighters. They cut like most of the roster, is what I heard after that merger. So is it good for the fighters? I don't think so.
It's probably good for the pockets of the people running it, maybe.
Yeah, and that's how it goes, right?
With this one too at the Apex, like was that hard to get up for those? Like I know you're kind of a crowd guy, like the Condit fight, like you were really getting into it with the crowd. Like, does it make it hard to like kind of get up when you're at the Apex for these ones?
The good thing is about it not being quiet. I guess Elon Musk was supposed to come out there and shut down the group. Like I heard there was no media, no stuff. They took tickets away from a lot of people that I even know they took tickets away from. And so it ended up being quieter. It ended up almost being like how the Apex first was. Like when there wasn't a crowd, there was very few people in there. But I did like I could hear my corner. I'm talking to my corner. Oh, other side, Max. We worked this. Hand on. Like it was like I was just getting walked through the whole fight on certain positions, and I heard my corner clear, like the clearest I've ever heard them. It's like, direct download. Left arm here, right arm here, underhook here. Go to that side. It was so like precise verbiage that I could use, and you can't got none of that when you're in the arena. When you're in the arena, if your corner's talking, their corner's talking, you're like, what? But this was like a video game. Like my coaches were max up, max down. It was pretty lit.
Judging by your face, it doesn't look like you took a whole lot of damage. So, like, when is kind of that time frame for you to return then?
This was the worst. It was like 3 little lines.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like fingernails or what, because he fucking winging them, man. I do want to fight soon. I know that Vicente Luque is looking for a guy. Sean Brady got hurt in Atlantic City. That's March 30th. That might be fun. I've always wanted to fight Luque, but I want to fight some of these guys, man. I shut down a lot of Jeremiah Wells like damage. Like he usually really puts people away and hurts them and finishes them all. So it was nice to go in there and not really get too busted up. But just it seems like the top 15 they're like in a protected group. Like let me just get into that group. Let me get in the group, and you'll see these guys either aren't as good as you guys think, or the pain train's coming, man. You're gonna see these guys start getting stomped out.
What do you make of the welterweight division? Like that top has kind of just been the same. Same with the lightweight division. It's kind of just the same guys. Like not a lot of them fight, and then like who knows? Like Bilal kind of should be next, but like who knows if that's gonna happen? It's just like kind of all weird at the top of the division.
Yeah, I think it's weirder than it's been. A lot of guys aren't fighting each other. I guess they're starting to get some matchups now, but real stagnant, man. Real stagnant. Need some fresh blood. They try to put me in fresh blood against when I fought Neil Magny. Let me get another chance. Let me get in there, man. We need a mix up. We need a mix up in there just to shake it up.
So I'm Canadian. I thought Mike Malott was going to be that guy. Like I thought they were setting him up perfectly with Magny, and then it looked like it was going well, and then that kind of happened, and it's like, well, I guess Magny's still just going to be there. Like it is tough when those like bottom guys just keep kind of knocking down these guys right on the cusp. So it is just kind of the same 15 guys.
Yeah, no, you're right. No, damn new Magny, man. He did them a lot. 30 seconds out, man. But hey, you got to fight all the way through, right? Shit. Let me get in there, though.
When, like, what is kind of the goal then for you this year?
I want to re-sign and then march my way to that top 15. Top 15, top 10. Just fight. I mean, I want to fight. I don't fight much as I want. I'm pretty healthy. My hands are fine. My face is fine. They just gave me a 7-day suspension. So I want to fight. I want to fight. I want to fight. Let's fight. Resign me. Let's fight.
Do you kind of like the opponents like Jeremiah that are coming to fight rather than like those guys you've been fighting? Like, is that what you prefer? Like, I know you said you like Luke. Like, I imagine that's kind of wise. Like, he's a guy that's not going to shy away from getting into a real fight.
Yeah, I like Luke. I was trying to look at the top 15. It's like there's not. Most people have freaking fights. I mean, I want to fight Jeff Neal still. I know he's fighting Ian Gary though. I love to fight Ian Gary for sure. He just has a lot to say about everybody. So, always wanted that fight. Who else is in there? There's not a lot of guys in there right now that have availability.
Is that like? Have you asked the UFC then about that Luke fight in March, or is it something that you're just kind of hoping, like maybe when you get a contract, he'll just kind of mention that?
I mean, Luke, that's March 30th. I mean, we may approach. But that's a main event. You know how they are. We'll see.
So ideal year though for you is just last thing. Like ideal year then is get like probably at least 2 more fights then, because I know you've been wanting to be active, and like see half the time you only get 1 or 2 a year.
I know. I want to be active. It's up to them. I want to fight though. There's no time like now. Like my hand's a little swollen, but that's just from punching. Jeremiah had a hard little head. He had a big head, but the shit hurt a little bit. But no harm, no foul. I'm healthy enough, no broken bones. Put me in there, coach.
Yeah.
Put me in there.
Well, Max, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you, Cole. I'm staying in shape.
All right, we're joined by UFC lightweight Chris Duncan, who's going down to Mexico in February. Chris, how's it going, man?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good.
Before we get into that one, I obviously want to touch on that October fight that obviously didn't happen against Terrence. Like, how kind of frustrating was that for that one not to come to fruition? Because I know when we talked, that was a fight you were really looking forward to. He was really looking forward to, and for it to kind of fall apart because of visa stuff, like how disappointing was that for you?
Yeah, it was literally like 4 days, 5 days we were needing extra. Unfortunately, the way it worked was that the visa bureau couldn't get me an appointment in time, so a little bit of a pain. But as soon as even when I landed home, the visa appointment wasn't even ready for me. So I think it was like 5 days after the fight, I ended up getting that visa. Sorry. So yeah, it was definitely not going to happen. Absolutely gutted. Terrence has got a massive following, and he's very beatable. So I was looking forward to that.
Were you surprised, like even after his fight was a pretty quick one, they didn't just try to rebook you guys?
To be honest, I think the way it works in the UFC is like if something happens, you get put to the back of the pile. Hence why we're here, 7 months down the line, ready to get another fight underway. So I think once I lost that fight due to the visa issues, I think I was just like at the top of the pile, and then I was just put to the bottom again. So yeah, hopefully I get that one back.
And with Manuel Torres, like how familiar were you with him? Like has 2 UFC fights, 2 knockouts in the first round, and he looked pretty impressive.
Yeah, I seen his fight against Nicholas Mota. I watched that live when I was here. I think maybe when I was meant to fight Terms. So I know of him. I know pretty much all the lightweights in my division. So I've always got an eye on them. So yeah, I was keeping an eye on guys like that.
Uh, I know some people enjoy going into enemy territory, some people don't. Was there any hesitation of accepting this one in Mexico City, fighting a Mexican?
Not the fact about the fighting the Mexican and going to a different city. I'm happy with that. It's the altitude that's going to suck.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got, like, as you can see, I've got the tent over there, the altitude tent, and also the altitude machine there to help me prepare. So I'm currently about 8,000 feet at the moment. So I've been in tow with the PI. They've been helping me source and make sure that I get the right altitude set for it. So I sleep in that at night time, and I train at sea level. So there's greater benefits to actually training in a tent at night time, or sleeping in the tent, sorry, and then training at sea level. It's to do with your blood oxygen levels. So I see, obviously, everybody looks at your opponent's Instagram. He's already out there in Mexico trying to get out acclimated, which is great. I'll be heading there next week, so it's just a week ahead of me. But the tent itself has made my cardio go through the roof. So I'm very, very, very trusting in my cardio, and I've always had good cardio anyway. So.
That is something I did want to ask about, is the altitude and going out there. You said you're going out there next week, so like 14 days before the fight. Is that normally
Yep.
earlier than what you normally go to for a fight? Like, are you heading out there earlier than what you normally do?
Yeah, probably about 5-6 days extra. I usually head there on the Tuesday to get booked in, but the work's done. We're both fighting at altitude. I understand that he may be slightly more acclimatized, but I just need to be slightly more proficient in things that I do. And let's be honest, I might go over there and not feel the altitude, because I've spoken to Thiago Alves. He fought in Denver. He said that when you first get there, you feel a little bit out of breath, and he says after you've been there for 4 or 5 days, you seem pretty good. So if I get a couple, well, I've been in touch with the PI, obviously, and they're gonna structure in some training protocols for me to make sure I get the maximum efficiency out of my body when it comes to it.
And then with this camp, like, who were kind of the main guys you were working with for this one?
So there's been a lot. I've trained with a lot of guys. I've been helping a lot of guys as well. So obviously, the way my career's going, I'm not fighting for like fight by fight. Obviously, there's strategic ways that we go about game planning. I think a lot of people get a little bit fixated on the opponent itself. So the main training partners, let me think. There's a couple of guys. There's Kelly's Mota. He's the Bellator fighter. My training partner Lindsay, Christian, Dakota. Trying to think who else. There's been so many, man. It's I've just been getting work in with everyone. And the thing is, as I said, I've been working with this altitude tent. My cardio is through the roof. I've never felt as good. Like usually in the past, we try and tailor it so we're maximising the 3 rounds, but I've been going the 5 rounds, sorry, on purpose to kind of get that feeling and make sure I'm doing my best work in 3, 4, and 5 to make sure I get that feeling, so I know I'm tired.
And then with Manuel, like, you look at his last, like, I think like 6 or 7 fights all end in the first round. So like, do you kind of get some confidence if you could get out of that first round, kind of like drag him into the later rounds? Like, do you think like the longer it goes, the more it benefits you, just how his last couple fights have gone?
Yeah, well, as you can see, he puts everything into everything. So it is what it is. He's a power striker. And let's be honest, if I came forward kind of reckless the way he does, it would probably end up in the same way. I'm being a little bit more calculated in my last 2 performances. The first one on my debut was an injury. The second one, I broke the guy's arm and he kind of ran away. I was struggling to pin him against the fence and get that finish. But you'll see a different problem when it comes to February 24th, because I'm well prepared. I've been an ATT for a long time now. And I'm just ready to show the world and put the Mexican fans to silence, because obviously I'm going to get a little bit of hate, but that's just the nature of the beast. guys who fought me in London, that's a Venezuelan now, and then a guy from Israel fought me in London. So I got to repay the favour and step into enemy territory. And us Scottish folk, we like that.
Have you talked to anyone at ATT about like what it's like fighting in like Mexico or like Brazil? Like it's all like pretty similar with like how loud their fans get and like how you kind of get treated on the way to the octagon.
Yeah, I think it just is the way it is, the culture. I think obviously I'm going to get booed because I'm fighting their guy. It's going to be nasty, but after the fight and after a win, I think everybody will be good. And let's be honest, like if I met anybody in the street, I know for a fact that they're not going to be disrespectful. Fighting's not like that. It's not like football or soccer, as you guys call it, but it is what it is. I've got to do my job. Sean Shelby and Dana White tell me what I've got to do, so just going to go in there and put this guy away.
How do you kind of see it playing out then?
I'm definitely hunting for this finish. I'm going to be a fan pleaser. I'm wanting to stand up this guy and knock him out. It's one of these ones that I feel that home territory, at altitude, go to my bread and butter is my striking, and you're going to see a different level of striking from myself this time.
Is there a bit of pressure to like not let this one hit the scorecard, especially fighting like a local guy in Mexico?
I don't give a fuck, as long as I get a paycheck. It just is what it is. But I got myself to the UFC by knocking people out, so I'm slowly getting back there. Obviously, after a big knockout in the Contender Series that I received, due to all the weight cuts, all that sort of stuff that we've talked about in the past, puts a little bit of stunt in your growth. But I'm slowly getting back there, and every performance is getting better. And if you could be a fly in the wall in ATT, you know how dangerous I am, and I'll be creeping at that top 10 very, very soon.
What do you think a win over Manuel does for you in this division? Like obviously lightweight's super deep, like it takes a lot to get the ranks. Like what do you think a win does for you?
I think, definitely takes a lot to be ranked, but that's definitely on the scorecards at the moment. I've got a couple of goals in mind. I want my picture on the wall in ATT because obviously they have all the pictures there. I'm going to start chipping into that top 10. I think by the end of my second contract from the UFC, I'll be chipping into that top 10. But, I'll be looking to fight some good names, some like a Terence McKinney or something like that. That would be a great fight. And someone that's got a little bit of star power that's going to boost me up, and I'll be kind of pull on their coattails and steal their star power.
This obviously is your third fight in the UFC. Like I know most contracts run the 4 fights. Like is this kind of the one where you think big win here, you can already start to renegotiate and get that better deal for next one?
Yeah, I think the third fight will be renegotiated. Obviously coming off the Contender Series, the money isn't great, but I'm very, very fortunate to be actually in the UFC, and it's the first time, like my first 2 UFC fights, I've now been able to concentrate on fighting due to the pay that I received. So it's not that bad. It's just a general wage, but that's my manager's job the next time to get me the cash money.
I know you obviously aren't full time yet in the States. Like I know you still go home between times. Like is that still a goal for you? Is to like eventually get your family, like make enough money and get your family out to Florida so you can just be at ATT full time?
Yeah, absolutely, man. We had the gender reveal of my daughter today, and we've got another baby on the way. So I'm going to have a son. So missing that and seeing that through a phone screen kind of broke my heart a little bit. I'm not going to lie. So a little bit tender today, fucking seeing that stuff. But yeah, it's for the greater good, and a lot of top guys like Brad Pickett. He used to come here and train, and he sent me a nice message just to say it's all going to be worthwhile. And I do know it's going to be worthwhile, but seeing my family through a phone for 8 to 10 weeks every time I come over here, it's a tough gig. So bring them over here and bring my best friend, my fiance over, and my children would be the next goal,
Just the final thing I want to touch on is obviously one of your teammates in Poirier took that interesting fight against Saint Denis. Like, are you surprised that's a fight that he took? Because like I thought Poirier would be kind of after those bigger fights, to fight a guy that's like well below him and like a guy that's not many people have heard of, and like a dangerous fight like that. I was surprised he took it.
Dustin Poirier is one of the OGs of the sport, like an actual gangster. So his words to me were, I was the guy up and coming, and sometimes you got to give these guys their shot. But he specifically said after that he's going to put him right back into his place. You know, Dustin is a freak of nature. He is one of the heaviest hitters in the gym. His timing's impeccable. His defense is unbelievable. So it's a real tough fight for that Simbanu or whatever his name is. So yeah, Dustin's going to smoke him within 2 rounds, and it's a 5-round fight as well. So I've not seen you've seen his fight when he fought up at welterweight. Obviously, it was a last-minute replacement, but you know, if the 3rd round didn't look so sweet for Simbanu.
Well, Chris, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this again.
Not a problem, man. Not a problem.